New business, technology update.
New business.
New business. Continuing business.
New business tonight because several of us are headed to a band concert here at high school here in a few minutes. So Nancy helped us
Talk
out.
fast.
So talk fast, is that what you?
We could just sing it.
You could have just recorded it.
No one
Brought
wants
some
that,
band
Charlotte.
people to give you some accompaniment.
The technology. Very good.
Thank you. So we're just going to give you a little mid-year semester one, a little roundup today. We usually come and talk to you twice a year anyway, just to let you know what we're doing. There is budgetarily, there's so much with technology that we'd like to visit with you all and let you know. And we'll start with the tech plan. We brought that to you all in May of 2015, and that was approved. And that has quite a bit of significance to us. It identifies all of our goals that impact everything we do educationally through technology. So it is our student learning, teacher prep, tech support, and resource distribution, as well as administration and data management. So it affects every area that we touch. There are 5 components that we work under that we always make sure that as a technology plan that we focus on. We assess, and you guys have heard me say many times, we pilot, and we get feedback from those pilots. We have professionalized learning plans for our teachers, systematic implementation. It's all things that technology plan that we brought to you in May of 2015 guides us through. And so that first semester, this is what we've done. So I wanted to remind you all about E-rate, which is a huge thing for us. It is about $304,000 that we get 70% reimbursed back to us. It's a federal program. This year we applied for and have still waiting approval, but it doesn't seem like that long ago I was talking to you about some of the backbone issues of wireless switches, firewall, things like that we approved. And it was a significant project. There was a lot of dollars tied to that, and we're now in the upgrading and replacing some of that. It just doesn't seem that long ago. But fortunately, when the federal FCC changed the way E-rate works, we, due to our free and reduced numbers, we were never eligible for that. They consider that Category 2, and we'd never been eligible before. And everyone now is eligible. So we're going to get 70% back on this $304,000 project that we're doing.
Awesome.
Hopefully. We haven't gotten that letter yet. I'm still waiting for that letter. Because it is the federal government, we're waiting just a tiny bit for those letters. And because everyone now is approved, there's so much paperwork that they are going through. So it is a process that we are waiting on. We had also last year, you all approved for us to have a consultant to help with this because it is such a significant project that all the paperwork is done and we're just waiting for that letter. So that was good news. 70% is great on that. Talk to you a little bit about bandwidth. It is the bread and butter. It is the life that we live now. Everything, I talk to you about that every time. Moornet just recently released, as of yesterday, as a matter of fact, our fiscal year 18 pricing.
Stop right there. Will you tell the board about your appointment on the Moornet?
Well, yes, I was recently asked to serve on the Moornet Council. There are 3 K-12 members, 3 higher ed, and 3 public library that sit on this council, and we vote and so yesterday, or Tuesday actually, we voted on the the pricing structure that will go forth for the state. So I was also at that time nominated to be the chairperson coming up. So
Congratulations.
new member and now the chairperson. So they
So you're one of 3
Well, sorry,
K-12
were you,
reps.
right for the state, right.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I'll be able to, I think that it's a great opportunity for me to kind of keep an eye on things going on because pricing, it does seem, we get a lot of resources tied in. It's not just internet. There's a lot of other resources that Moornet provides to us. So we are fortunate to be a member with them. So bandwidth, one of the things that came out of the fiscal year 18 pricing structure is that we currently have a 300 meg connection. Next year, we can have a 500 meg connection at the same price that we have a 300 meg connection. So we had throttled that back. We had watched very closely. We are now hitting that every day. It is, as we look, there are very few client-based products, or client-based software products that we still use. Everything's in the cloud.
Right.
So internet usage is just, every day it increases. There's never going to be a time, you'll probably get tired of me saying bandwidth, but it is something that we're looking at right now. My goal is to call them and see if maybe we can't get that pricing, just get that turned up and see if we can, since it's going to be the same, maybe they can just take care of us now instead of waiting until July 1. So, because we are hitting that every day.
Certainly before testing season.
Right. Well, and Mr. Hounsome and I always work, sends out an email asking people to make sure that what they're doing is educational related because we are testing. It is, we watch that very closely during the day, and we now have the ability to, if we see it maxing out, we can turn on a filter that filters out educational only. So it kind of shuts down banking, shuts down a lot of other things, so our phones start ringing. But we have the ability to kind of throttle some of that traffic back a little. So we make sure we always have phones run through the internet now, as well as testing, things like that. We are actively involved in the high school construction project. In the addition there, I worked with the electrician. We will be running all the data cabling as that project continues on. We are stopping, I go by there at least twice a week to make sure that we're on track with everything there. So that'll be picking up shortly, I'm sure. And then access to equipment. That's really been what we have focused on quite a bit in the last 7 months. This next slide can kind of give you a little bit of a picture. The columns on the left were May, as we ended school year last year. The columns on the right are right now, as of some purchase orders that we did just 2 weeks ago. What you'll see is that our iPads, the number of iPads have reduced. Pause there for a second. About 200. But what's significant in that is we have increased our Chromebooks by about 1,400 devices in that 7-month time period.
Wow.
If those were Windows laptops, we would still be unboxing them and trying to get them set up and get them in the hands of our students. Chromebooks, we have been able to, the unboxing of them actually took longer than the setup and the push out. They are in use, they are rolled out, kids are using them. It has been, again, you'll hear later on, we're talking about Google, it has very much simplified what we do upstairs and the whole process and the turnaround time to get those devices in the hands of students. We anticipate that will continue. I don't have the laptop numbers that we have on here simply because those are aging and honestly, they don't want to use them anymore. They're sometimes a year-old laptop, the battery life isn't what they want it to be. You're constantly having to charge it, and they don't rely on them for testing and other purposes. The Chromebook, I think, last month we had Mrs. Garrett here talking about, she gave a really nice presentation about how she's using them in her classroom, and I think she said something about battery life rocks. And so I would agree with that wholeheartedly. They last all day long. They have really been a great device to implement for us. And then I believe I put down at the bottom there, I believe we'll have at least 250 more coming in for semester 2, and that depends on building principals looking at their remainder of their budgets as well as mine, and what we can do, and having discussions with them on where our needs are. And obviously with that increase in devices, testing will be a lot easier on our counselors and getting those devices put into the hands of our students. And this is just a really quick little graph to show you the numbers that we had here. We just put it in a graph for you to see. iPads are on the left. You can see them. Orange is where we currently stand right now. Blue was back in May. And you can see the growth.
Right.
One area that we really grew in was at our elementary schools. You can see those last 3 columns, Mark Twain, Truman, and Wyman. Last year, as we ended the school year, we had 28 Chromebooks. We had 1 cart in a 3rd grade classroom. This year, we decided that every third grade classroom would have access to that cart, and that's the difference that you'll see there, and that has the numbers of devices have increased. But we also, those carts float around. If someone needs it in second grade, they have access to it too. But that also freed up the iPads. We talk about iPads, and they will always stay at the elementary level. They just really are a great fit there. And so that freed up an iPad cart to float somewhere else in the building. It's been great. I would like for Christopher now to come up and talk to you all about that third grade pilot that we're running, and kind of how it's on a day-to-day basis, how it's making a difference. The comm. Yeah.
Mr. Wright, welcome.
Hey, good evening. All right, let's take a look. So each of our third grade classrooms does have access to a cart in their classroom at all times. And at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of teaching of basics, getting practice logging in. Our third graders have the same kinds of usernames and passwords as all of our students do, and our passwords are required to be kind of complex, so there are capital and lowercase letters, symbols, numbers, etc. And so with kids coming from an iPad world, it takes a little while to teach them how to use the keyboard. So on the iPad, they're used to just pressing the shift button and then pressing the letter that they want to be capitalized. And so we go through the whole process of holding down the shift button, which for some of our students takes a few times. But they acclimate pretty quickly to that. We also go through Chromebook safety with our students on how to care for those, and how to make sure that they're being properly taken care of. Once they're pretty acclimated to the system, we set up their drive so that they can easily find things in their Google Drive. Then the teachers start taking them onto other apps, and I have several up there on the screen. Prodigy and Front Row and Extra Math are all math apps that they can use and access. Prodigy is a particularly popular one with the students because they solve math problems and then they get to move around. It's kind of almost a fantasy type game that they get to play. Of course, Khan Academy has screencasts going down to very basic math. Quizlet is great for using vocabulary development and getting to know words that they need to have and practice those. And of course, we're using the Google Suite, which is what it's called now. It used to be called Google Apps. And so that's Drive, Slides, Forms. And so my first sample up there is an example. And see if you could, do I have control over that? I do. This is an example from Mark Twain. Every year they do Christmas Around the World, and typically they will keep track of their facts within a book that they use. But this year, since they have access to the Chromebook carts, they're using Google Slides to keep track of the information that they're learning about. And so they will visit a different country and learn about how they celebrate. They'll learn about the country as they learn about how they celebrate a Christmas. And so down the side there you can see different slides where they're gathering information. This particular file was taken pretty early on in the process. So
The student in third grade, they get a Google Drive. That Google Drive, that stays with them all the way through high school, right?
It does,
so they,
yes.
at the end, really have built, if they keep it organized, they've got a whole
Yes.
portfolio of
Exactly.
stuff. So
It
this will
becomes
save the
electronic
Tupperware box.
portfolio.
Yeah.
And that's something that we work with the kids starting in third grade is how to organize the drive so that they can find things. And Classroom does a great job of helping us with that as well. So the next one is Google Forms, and our teachers are using Google Forms for quick formative assessments. Oops. And this is just a snapshot of an example of a third grade Google form that they're looking at some basic math facts. And so this allows teachers to quickly gather data on what their students know and are capable of doing. And then they can use that data for several different things, whether it's putting them into small groups or just pinpointing certain things and objectives that they need to work on as a class or as an individual. So it's a really great way to gather data with our students. And then the next one is Padlet. It's a virtual, kind of like a Post-it note board. And this is from Mr. Allen's class at Wyman. And they were learning about Pearl Harbor, and so they were conducting some research. And then he asked his students to use this collaborative space to reflect on the things that they learned about Pearl Harbor. And so they also took a picture of themselves as kind of a way of putting their name on their assignments. So they get to learn from each other through their reflections as well as through their teacher, Mr. Allen, who also put a reflection up as well. Padlet's great for many things of that nature, but it's a great collaborative space for kids to work together.
Amazing.
Some other things that we've seen through the third grade at Mark Twain, the third grade classes have been helping second grade classes actually get logged on to Google Drive for the first time. And so we do have at least one floating card that can be checked out by the other grade levels. And so you see a picture there of some third graders working with some second graders. They had just logged into to the Chromebook for the first time, and they were learning how to create a folder in Drive. And using that trackpad is also a pretty steep learning curve, especially for the right click, which is a 2-finger tap on the trackpad. So it was very nice to have the third graders who felt very experienced compared to their second grade peers. So, I did a little survey of our third grade teachers, asking them how they felt having Chromebooks in their class, what kind of difference did they make. And these were two of the quotes that I found most affecting. I'll let you read those.
I think those two summarize what our goals are.
And so technology, with the cart being in the classroom, ceases to become an event, something that we go do or something that comes to us. It's just a part of the way that we learn. And that really helps and prepares them for what it's going to be like when they're no longer in school, when technology becomes a very easy way for them to continue their learning after school. And then also, we've seen quite a bit done with differentiation and the ability to do small group work. And so while students are using some of these tools that help categorize them and put them in areas of need, the teacher can then work with small groups to help target those specific goals that the kids need to work on. And the technology really helps facilitate that and makes it quite a bit easier to do. Also, when I surveyed the teachers, I asked them what percentage of the time they were using it. And of the 60% of the survey respondents reported to using the Chromebooks at least 50% of the day.
Wow.
So they are being used, and our third grade teachers love it. So right now, Jeannie's going to come talk to us about what it's like to be an instructional technologist.
Hello.
Welcome.
All right, I'm going to talk about a day in the life of an instructional technology. Well, you got to be able to use this.
Please, part-time job.
Side button, pull it down.
There we go. Well, this was kind of hard because really no 2 days are ever the same in technology. So I have 3 slides that will kind of just give you an overview of just kind of what our job is and what we do. The first one is entitled Training, and you can see some images of some of our teachers in their formal curriculum PD day trainings. We do a lot of research and collaborating and testing with each other on different tools to see what's best for our teachers, keeping in mind each one of their curricular needs. After our trainings, we try to follow up with them after they've had some time to kind of digest everything that they learned. They become students, and they realize quickly sometimes that it can be overwhelming to give them too much at once. So we follow up with them and encourage them to try something that they learned in training. I find that teachers are eager to try new tools when they are when they have support. Sometimes they're just their comfort level and their skill level, they feel like it's not where it should be. So giving them that extra, support kind of drives their usage of the technology. Like I said, there's always something new happening, sometimes right before our very eyes. There'll be an update, or you think that Quizlet worked this way yesterday, now it looks different. So we're always on our toes. The next slide is, let's see, our classroom visits. This one is probably my favorite. I think I could say that for all of us. This is where we get to go out in the classrooms and be a part of the actual usage of the technology that we've trained them on. So we get to interact with the teachers and the students just to see if what we're doing is best for them, if they're adapting to it, and it also kind of drives what we do in our trainings. Teachers will request classroom visits. They may just email with their idea and say, hey, can you come and help me do this? Sometimes a gentle nudging, or I call drumming up business, is what I do. We go out and we know what they're teaching, or we know an idea that would be useful to them. So we just encourage them, and like I said, build their comfort level and their skill level, and then they, are more able to infuse this into their day-to-day. As Ginger mentioned, the Chromebooks, we have so many in our district now that I'm seeing teachers, instead of saying, hey, next week let's do one activity, now it's, I'm using these daily. They're infusing it into their regular activities. Instead of just planning a fun activity, they're taking what they used to do on paper and figuring out how to use it with their students on a day-to-day basis. So it's kind of changed a little bit. We're actually out there more, hands-on with them, encouraging them on their day-to-day. And my final slide is just kind of how we just continue the after-school activities. Some teachers, we oftentimes meet on their plan time, but that can be hectic. So they will, request an after-school planning time where we brainstorm some ideas or set up the activity for the next day. We also have some after-school activities, club activities for students. Cyber Warriors, that's at the middle school. Tech Ninjas and Tech Adventurers are the elementary ones. And we take this time, actually we do this throughout, we keep this in the back of our mind, with the use of technology and them on the internet and using, Chromebooks and computers, we have to keep in mind that their digital footprint is being left behind. And you want it to be a positive one. So throughout our lessons and kind of touching on it after school with smaller groups of kids, we really focus on what it means to be a digital citizen, and that's really important. In our day-to-day, it's kind of a changing world right now, so we have to make sure that they understand that what they do, does leave a footprint behind. So we have exploratory teachers that spend time on this in their exploratory classes. We hit it after school in these club activities and just monitor our students daily, just, because sometimes they don't realize what they're doing. So
Sometimes adults don't realize what they're doing.
That's right. So it helps to just keep that on the forefront of our mind. So now Brenda will come and talk to you about some Google tools we're using and our PD.
So as I reflect back on where we have been, I think back to 5 years ago, guys, when we were doing iPads, the word Chromebook wasn't even in existence. So it makes me think like where we will be in 5 years, because it's probably something that we don't even know exists. Here we are, traveling this technology journey. It's pretty amazing. And another quick story is we had a high school student. They had to take a flash drive to a competition, and the teacher was like, okay, you guys need to bring your flash drive, and the kid went, what is that? And I'm like, that's where, we've already created this new evolution of what students view technology as. They don't save things. It's in the cloud. I never lose it. Why would I lose that? And just in 2 or 3 years, we have done this shift. I tell adults that, the kids it is moving quickly, and we have changed this with Google's help. So, just real quickly, come on.
Side.
I was doing the side, but it's okay. So just a couple things. We are still doing Google all the time. Google has really jumped on the education bandwagon, so they are continually providing us updates. Pretty much once a month, something new is coming out. So I've just highlighted a couple things that are going on. Nancy, if you'll just click on the great Google gadgets for teachers, just to kind of let you guys hear some terms. These are all tools that make Google even more powerful than its standalone applications. So, PicMonkey is our free photo editor. GradeProof is a tool that lets kids run through. It'll tell them how many words they have. It suggests different grammar edits to it. It tells them how long it would take them to read it, to speak it. Teachers can look at their edits. Flubaroo continues to be improved. It is an easy grading tool that we have for teachers. Nancy, if you'll just go, yeah, there you go. And then we have Autocrat, which is a mail merge kind of tool. It's helped Shoop quite a bit with her co-curricular meetings refresher. That Autocrat tool saved tons of time for her. We have name tags. I've got power tools. So just some ideas. So Google has 3 things. It's got apps, extensions, and add-ons. And they are all tools that just enhance the standalone Google version. And they're all free. Just amazing. The DocHub is a PDF editor, so if you have to fill in a PDF, if a student has a worksheet that they just need to be able to type on that's in PDF, now we have a tool that does that. Okay, so it's interesting to stay up on all the terms that are going on. Okay, so just Google Forms. We used to have to use something called Flubaroo to grade those. This summer, Google enhanced their Google Form tool, so it just has a little switch that says, make this a quiz. And then the teachers right within the Google Form can put the answer key, their number of points, give it feedback. The teachers get to decide, do they want the kids to have instant feedback or do they want to send it out later? But Google just incorporated that this summer, so now our explosion of doing Google Forms, it allows us to put images in it, the sharing of it, so that piece has really gotten improved over the summer. Instead of having to have a third-party tool, Google just, and I expect, honestly, Google Forms we've really been using. We've been pretty much on the leading edge of this, but they're adding so fast. And think about, we've only really been doing it like 2 years. I really expect Google to just add more and more education tools to their repertoire. So you'll hear this word hyperdocs. And hyperdocs are, Nancy, can you go up? Okay, so a hyperdoc is a digital learning tool through a Google Doc. So the kids, we've started to introduce teachers to what a hyperdoc is. It's really more than a digital worksheet, but you can think of it like a web quiz sometimes based on a Google Doc, because Google Docs are live. So, kids can click on links and you can have an explore section and you can tie it all together and they can post whatever assessment they did or whatever creation they did. They just tie it all together to this live, visually appealing, interactive learning. I mean, so it can be a Google Doc, a Google slide, but there's all kinds of hyperlinks that go inside of a hyperdoc, and so that's kind of the new term. It's been around just about a year or two, but our teachers are really jumping on board, and you'll see out the January 3rd PD, a couple teachers are doing sessions on hyperdocs. And just 2 little mentions of things. Google Classroom now has a Guardian summary. We are test piloting that right now just to make sure we know exactly how it's going to work. But we can invite parents to get an activity feed. The parents themselves get to choose whether it's a weekly summary or a daily summary of what is happening within that class of Google Classroom. So that's kind of nice because sometimes parents are wondering,
Right.
like, how do I know what my student's doing when it's all online? So this feature has been added in. We're testing it. We're hoping to roll it all out in our January trainings. And then the next thing that we're piloting right now that we'll be pushing out in January is the Team Drive. So the Team Drive is a Rolla Public Schools owned part of your Google Drive. Means if a teacher leaves our district, okay, and there is curriculum, assessments, worksheets sitting in the Team Drive, when they leave, that we don't have to worry about switching so much ownership. Now, it stays in the Team Drive. And so that's been a valuable piece we've been waiting for. It's been like our shared network drives. Google has pushed this out, so we've been one of the early adopters. They just pushed it out about a month ago, so we jumped on the bandwagon to pilot it, and we're piloting it with some small groups, but by next year for sure we'll have that in place. We just know that they're going to keep adding a few more features to that Team Drive. So that's a huge piece. Okay, so just a real quick recap. This is what our instructional tech plan looks like this year. Again, everybody is still attending either PD days. Release time are for our core curriculum areas. So the morning is spent with us learning technology training, and then the afternoon is they kind of work on their team. Some of them choose to work with things that they learn in the morning. Some of them are working on things that maybe have been directed with curriculum with Craig. But we have I Teach Focus, Focus One, and then our departmental areas, our smaller department area, like FACS, PE, SPED, they're meeting on our PD release days. So we've got a whole system in place.
Good.
Okay, just a reminder, our new teachers, we have grown so much in technology, looking back again for 5 years. Guys, we are doing some amazing things. So our new teachers are actually part of our Focus One. That's where they need to be. They're ready to jump on the bandwagon. They've got devices in their classrooms. They need concentrated training. And so we still have a kind of a Focus 2 that we have a group of teachers that are kind of in a 2-year concentrated training, and we give them some basic expectations that they have to show. We still have to push some of them because some of them, okay, I've done my time with you. I'm going back and just teach my old way. Do I have to do anything new? So we have to set some expectations up. So we've kind of asked them, they have to provide a 1 to 2 minute video. They have to create a HyperDoc this time. They have to use a Google form assessment somehow. And then they have to show somewhere where the students have produced something on Google. And they're submitting all this through Google Classroom back to us. And they have some artifacts that they have to submit. But there has to be accountability.
Right.
So know that that's still going on. And I just kind of threw on here, we're still servicing our paras. We just did training with our secretaries. Actually, secretaries are asking for more. They asked me the other day, Brenda, could you figure out some way that we could do it either quarterly or monthly, that we have an hour little time and we do little segments at a time, because they're realizing that there's so many valuable tools, time-saving tools through Google also, that you just can't learn it in 1 hour. It has to be a continuous effort to keep up with all the changes. Okay, so the full PD schedule, you can just click on that link at the bottom there, Nance. Can you get to it? But just a reminder, this is what this looks like. We set this up usually in April, and then it's approved, tweaked finally in July. But people know from the beginning of the school year, if you'll go on to second semester, these are all our days. We listened to some feedback last year on how to help with the sub situation, so we spread things out a little bit more. We grouped some bigger groups of teachers, common curriculum, so we weren't pulling them out, so people didn't have 2 times that they missed, or the buildings were working with subs. So we've got a whole calendar of what's happening with us.
Very good.
Questions that you guys have on any of our PD training? That is our key component.
You want to talk a little bit about January 3rd?
Yep, that's our next slide.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so this is our 4th year.
Thinking.
4th year of our January PD kickoff. And I think Dr. Zalis sent you a little bit of information about that. This really warms my heart, really, because this is something that we put on together, but we now have 41 different sessions. That's our homebred what is happening in our classrooms. I'm so excited for this. So we still are doing the 2 50-minute sessions. It's it's the day that teachers come back from school, so they have a lot to get going for their second semester, but we hope it, just by going to a session kind of gets in their mind, maybe I should try something different. That's the key. I've told so many teachers, we all have, look at something, and then we know that we can support them. Go see what's out there. And, it's customized, so they get to do it. And with Google, we'll auto-generate session tickets. It really works smooth. I don't think we could do this as easily as we do it. Now, we spend hours putting together, but it's very manageable with Google. Because they'll just get a ticket in their Google Drive. It'll tell them what sessions, what hour, or what location they go to. We'll have it customized through Autocrat, and they'll have that before they leave for break, and then there won't really be anything printed out. Okay, so just an idea of how this works. Yep. So we called for our presenters. We gave them about 3 weeks to think about what's going on. We've created the session guide. So Nancy, that's the only thing I'm really going to pull up here is the session guide. And if you'll go present that and go to slide 2. So this is a Google slideshow.
Yep.
It's all linked, so if you haven't really looked at that, I think it's pretty impressive. And we really focused on making sure that we had something for everyone, from our pre-K kindergarten teachers all the way to our adult RTI teachers. Everybody should be able to find something that they can benefit from to use in their classroom.
Well, of course, they could all come to the board presentation.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
You want to have that at 9 o'clock as a plenary session for everyone
And
to
we could meet in
attend?
the auditorium, and start that. You just tell me what to do, and I'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
We'll have snacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll take care of our presenters. We always are very, very grateful. And so any of you that can just stop by and thank the presenters for the time, because this is going into their Christmas break, having materials ready, and they all take it very seriously and want to do their very best. This is a list. I just thought it'd be interesting to see some of our presenters. Some of them are pairing up, so actually, even though we have 41 sessions, we have 50 teachers that are presenting that have stepped up and said, I will do this for you guys.
Wow.
We have definitely grown.
Greg and Charlotte are doing ours.
And Jane.
Your names are up there.
I
I
don't
did.
know
We got
why.
everybody up there.
You were the one that clicked on the Google Drive link.
So if you're not doing anything January 3rd, please stop by the middle school. First session's at 10 o'clock. Second session is at 11 o'clock. Just peep in. I think it's good for you guys, too, to go see what our teachers are doing. You will definitely hear them. So to wrap up, Ginger's going to kind of wrap us up tonight, and hopefully, we'll see you guys in May and see you January 3rd.
No Christmas pun in the wrap-up.
Thanks, Brandon.
Wrap it.
It never ceases to amaze me what we get done in one semester, and we usually,
Whoa.
but we do, and I always make mention that we have a great team, and so we have 3 instructional technologists, we have 5 people upstairs in the networking side, and we all work together to get this done. In one semester, we've accomplished quite a few things, and to see some successes, and we have a great team. Going forward, we will continue to discuss the 2017 transition plan and what our role is in that, whether it's additional professional development for people moving to different buildings or devices that we need to put in place. Make sure that budgetarily we've got what is where it needs to be for that educational process. We don't want to, one of the things in my mind right now is we have a group of 3rd graders. We're going to be moving to 4th grade to the middle school, and while the middle school has several cards, we want to make sure that those kids are, every team has the devices that they need. So we don't want to lose what we've done and what we've built here in 3rd grade. So that's something that we'll have discussions with the staff, the administrative staff there at the middle school, and at each building, as a matter of fact. We also continue to evaluate and assess our hybrid program. We have not given up on the idea of one-to-one. It's something that we discuss. That at some point we need to make sure that it is still what we're doing is still educationally where we need to be, as well as budgetarily sound. As we add devices, so it's been made mention, are we continuing to add devices where if we just gave every student a device? But there's a cost involved with that too.
Right.
When they start taking them home, there's a cost involved with that as well. So that's something that we continue to evaluate and assess all the time as well. Right now, what we're doing is working, and we've got a pretty good balance. There are some areas where we need to add additional devices, and we are meeting that need there as well. So I started with the technology plan. I'll end with the technology plan. We had several goals as a priority, and we got my little sheet here. There's 6 of them on here, and I can check off on every single one of them that we are working towards those. And in one semester, we have addressed each one of these priority goals, and that's what we work from. So we'll see you at the end of second semester, and thank you very much.
I don't want to hold you up from the band. You presented some data some time ago, and in the course of our book study, we've sort of run into this digital divide thing. Do we have any sense now how many homes that our kids are in don't have access to the internet in any good way?
Keith, we send out a survey a second semester every year. I've got some data from last year that we do look at that. There are school districts who are, and I went to, Dr. Pritchett invited me over to the principal's advisory, and so I sat through all 3 lunch shifts. Alex was there. We had some discussions, and that question got asked to all 3. And it's a 2-part question, because some of them, do you have access to the internet? Some of them got confused with, do you have access to a device?
Right.
So it's kind of 2 questions. Right. But I would believe that divide, we sit here in Rolla, Missouri in a pretty rural area. There are people out where they just don't have access. Right. No matter, it's not a funding issue, it's where they live.
Right.
So we will always have that to some degree. But I think that's narrowing, but it's something that we have to be cognizant of as we're moving forward. And that's something when we talk about the one-to-one, we send kids home with a device. If they don't have internet, and Google,
well, and I'm thinking of the Guardian system where the parents can get in. Well, maybe they can get in at work, but maybe not. And, as we implement these things, I think we just need to keep that in the front of our mind, that how do we make sure that all the kids have access to this and parents have access to it
we do.
going forward. And what can we do as a district? Do we open up rooms where the parents can come in and access facilities so they can get into Google Classroom?
There are other ways around that, and there are some school districts that are doing that now. Of course, it comes at a cost,
right.
But through I know there's a program through Verizon where you can bring home and you actually plug it into your electrical outlet and it provides wireless. And they, based on free and reduced lunch or whatever the criteria, you check that out and then that gives you wireless at home. But there's a cost involved with that. And unfortunately, I looked into it. It's not E-ratable, but it's something that, as we go forward and as we evaluate the one-to-one process and how we're moving that's something that we'll need to talk about. Is included in that cost.
Yeah, I just think that's something you guys obviously are on top of it. I just think that's something the board needs to understand, that the more we do this, there is going to be a cost. At some point we're going to have to figure out a way to provide access to people that just don't have access.
We can't let
what that looks like, I don't know, but you're going to have to bring those suggestions back to us, and we'll do the cost thing that we always do. Yeah,
absolutely.
We just don't want to put all this in place and then parents and families can't access it.
We do annually survey that, and just to make sure. And at the lower grades, we're not sending a lot of electronic, digital homework home. Right. But it's something that we do keep in mind.
Good.
So on that same line of questioning, if kids are using their own device, something comes up in class and the teacher asks them to look for something, and I haven't heard much since we implemented the bring your own device policy about, one, how that's going, or two, if that happens, do kids that maybe don't have their own device have better access now? At least by numbers, I would think so, but can you talk a little bit about that?
About to bring, and that might be with these guys are in the classrooms, physically in those classrooms and see it happening. And I haven't heard a lot of feedback on, 'cause sometimes when we use it, when we're using our own devices, that's a parent's data plan. And I haven't heard, or they're on our wireless. And so the kids jump back and forth between our wireless
Sure.
and their own data plans, as we have some content filtering going on that they don't always
Right.
appreciate. No Twitter, Facebook, or whatever it is that they're wanting to use. So some of those things are blocked, and they don't always want to jump on our wireless. We have not, I believe when there's a project going on, I've not heard, Brenda, have you?
Well, I was just
you
going
have
to say one thing about that. Here's the other thing that's changing, is the cost of Chromebooks. I had a student come in the other day that had bought a Chromebook, $50.
Yeah, I mean, they're, yeah.
$50. So I am seeing more and more students that couldn't afford other devices that bought a Chromebook, and he wanted me to help him connect it to the Wi-Fi. And so just the cost of those, that they can find deals and they're refurbished, that is changing what the kids, the access of the kids. And they're using the Chromebooks, and so I'm anxious to see even after Christmas, how many of them are getting Chromebooks, especially if you have a freshman, sophomore, just to use at Broward Public
Right.
Schools. I always say you might not carry it on through if you were a senior in high school. You might buy a full laptop to go on to college, but if you're a freshman in high school, for $125 you can get a pretty
I think that's changing because Emily she uses her Chromebook more than her computer.
the kids.
Yeah.
And
Because the university's all gone to Google too.
there's nothing to install out of the box. You don't have any virus protection. You're not buying extra software for it. So literally out of the box is what you pay for it.
Yeah.
So
And what's a phone cost now?
$700.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I'm watching the shift.
So that's,
happening in
that's
front of
something
us.
we can think about too, is this something we could go to CORE and say, could we build a fund for families that can't afford it to purchase a refurbed laptop or something like that?
Look at the money woman.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger.
Ginger.